Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today the Pittsburgh Steelers are just mediocre. What are we talking about? So, as of this recording, we don't know, or I don't know, who the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback is going to be next season. It looks like it's either going to be Aaron Rodgers or they're going to bring back Russell Wilson. I'm sure when most of you guys are watching this video, you will know who their quarterback's going to be this next season. But this video is not about their quarterback situation. This video is about their head coach, because in a discussion about the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation on First Take with Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp used this opportunity to take a shot at Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin. So we're going to go ahead and I will play you guys this clip from First Take of Shannon, calling out Mike Tomlin, and then we'll react to it on the other side. And I have some very interesting Mike Tomlin stats that you guys do not want to miss. So we'll go ahead and watch this clip from First Take, and then we'll react.
What is the standard? We hear Mike Tomlin say all the time, the standard is the standard. Well, in Pittsburgh now, the standard is mediocrity. Because what do we always highlight Mike Tomlin with? He's never had a losing season. That ain't worth a damn. We don't pay you to not have a losing season. We pay you the big bucks to win championships. And they haven't, as you mentioned, Steve, they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. He's never had a losing season. What is 9-8? What good is that doing me? Bro, come on. That's like kissing your girl through a screen door. That ain't doing nothing. Ain't no lips touching. You don't get to hold no hands. That ain't nothing, Stephen A. I need more from Mike Tomlin. He said, this is what he said. The standard was the standard. So now when we associate standard with Pittsburgh, it's mediocrity. It's a game or two above 500. That is not good enough for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Guys, he makes some really good points. So this is, he was right. This has been a thing that's kind of been a badge of honor for Mike Tomlin for several years now. I think it was kind of like the late 2010s. People are kind of pointing out, Mike Tomlin never had a losing season. Look at this guy. Look how amazing Mike Tomlin is. Hall of Fame head coach. But the problem is that since people have been saying that, that's kind of been what the Steelers have just been. They've just been like a 500 team or slightly above 500 team. You guys know the playoff stats. We're going to get into a little bit deeper playoff stats here in a minute, but haven't won a playoff game in forever. Haven't been a Super Bowl contender in several years. And kind of the interesting thing about that too is other teams around the NFL that have, what we would say really good head coaches, really good organizations are prone to having down years. We've seen the Ravens have down years. We've seen the San Francisco 49ers have down years. We've seen the Rams have some down years. But the difference is between the Rams, the 49ers, the Ravens, when they have their down years, they bounce back in the next year or two, and they're like the one seed in their conference, and they're competing for a Super Bowl. And Lamar Jackson's winning an MVP, and the Rams are going toe-to-toe with a very young roster against the team that wins the Super Bowl, or a team that's a title contender, or the 49ers bounce back and then make a Super Bowl. The Pittsburgh Steelers haven't had that bounce back. Their offense has been in flux for several years now. Mike Tomlin deserves more blame for the poor offensive coordinator decisions that he's had, where he had Todd Haley, who started off pretty well, actually, if you look at the numbers, but then ended up being a disaster. Matt Canada, who's probably like one of the worst offensive coordinators in the NFL. You had him for a few years. And then now it's like Arthur Smith, which we've kind of had a little bit mixed results after 1 year. But it's kind of the thing here where it's like, hey, man, we need you to start winning. We have higher standards for you. You're supposed to be a Hall of Fame head coach. And this is just mediocre. And kind of like the interesting thing here is like what we just said, teams can have down years. But a more interesting thing, and I'm going to share with you guys a few things here. There's been, since Mike Tomlin's had just a playoff win, there has been multiple rebuilds and contending situations that have arose in the NFL. So this first one I'll show you guys is kind of funny, or these first two I'll show you guys. So this is a thing, because I'll be full disclosure, I was going to do a Mike Tomlin video when they got kicked out of the playoffs earlier this year, but I was sick that entire week afterwards, so I wasn't able to do it. So this is kind of like my Mike Tomlin playoff reaction video. So since Mike Tomlin's last playoff win, Dan Quinn took the Falcons to a Super Bowl. Dan Quinn was fired by the Falcons, spent 3 years as the defensive coordinator in Dallas. Dan Quinn got hired by the Commanders and took the Commanders to the playoffs and won a playoff game, won multiple playoff games. By the way, took them to the NFC Championship. But that's not all, guys. This is another one that's just amazing of how long it's been since Tomlin and the Steelers have just won a playoff game. So let's look at this one. Since Mike Tomlin's last playoff win, the the Houston Texans have completed 2 rebuilds, 4-12 in 2017, 2 division titles, won a playoff game, 4-12 in 2020, 4-13 in 2021, traded Deshaun Watson, 3-13 and 1 in 2022, drafted CJ Stroud, 2 division titles, and then 2 playoff wins. Man, oh man, there's so many teams out there that they just have a little bit of a rebuild. They fire their coach, they're bad for a year or two, and then they come back and they make their fans happy. They're starting winning playoff games. We think they might be contenders. But that's not the thing that the Steelers have wanted to do. They've wanted to stay with Mike Tomlin. They haven't wanted to go in a different direction. They haven't wanted to change kind of the coaching philosophy. I think they take a lot of pride in the whole Noel to Cowher to Tomlin thing. But it's getting to a point here where like we need to start seeing success. And actually, too, guys, as I'm going to show you guys this next thing here, it's not just like, hey, like he won his last playoff game in 2014, and then ever since then, everything before then, it was like awesome playoff success, awesome playoff success, awesome playoff success. It actually has been a thing for like almost 15 years now, where the Pittsburgh Steelers have not been doing anything in the playoffs. Guys, look at this. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers playoff wins since 2011, as you guys can see on your screen now. 2011, no playoff win. 12, no. 13, no. 14, no. In 2015, my bad. I said 2014. It's 2016, obviously. Sorry, my bad. I was a few years off. 2015, their playoff win was against the Bengals, backup quarterback A.J. McCarron. The next year, Matt Moore at home at Alex Smith in the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes. I actually ended up drafting Patrick Mahomes that offseason. And the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Did I count that right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The last 9 years, no playoff wins. No playoff wins. Well, you might be saying, well, James, that's not fair. Playoffs are all about matchups. And sometimes you just have bad matchups. And like the Steelers got to be playing like some of these playoff games like incredibly close, right? Well, actually, they haven't been, guys. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys another kind of devastating stat here about the Pittsburgh Steelers under Mike Tomlin, at least the last few years. Mike Tomlin, now this is a little bit of a biased, obviously a not favorable Mike Tomlin tweet here. Mike Tomlin, the master motivator and defensive specialist, can't stop a nosebleed in the first half of a playoff game. 2024, 21-0. And again, this is the first half of the playoffs. 21-0 against Baltimore, 21-0 against Buffalo, 21-7 against Kansas City, 28-0 against Baker Mayfield's Cleveland Browns, 21-0 against Jacksonville. Man, any way you slice and dice it, like this can't be fun, Pittsburgh. This can't be fun. I know Mike Tomlin's a great guy. He's a good coach. He's still a good coach, despite all of the stuff we just showed you. But it does feel like, and obviously it's way too late in the process, but it does feel like Steelers are kind of due for a culture shift. They need a new voice. They need new people making decisions. They need new philosophies. And everything's just kind of gone stale here. Even though you kind of look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and you look through, because it's kind of weird. For a while, it was like in the mid-2010s, it's like they had this awesome offense and their defense was terrible. And then it's like the last like 3 or 4 years, it's kind of flipped. But you would think even with an awesome defense, like all of these recent playoff performances that we just showed you, you think they would show up a little bit more. But instead, it's just cheek clapping. They're getting their cheeks slapped every single way. I got one last Mike Tomlin thing to show you guys, because this isn't even like an anti-Tomlin thing. It's more of like a respect to the other guy that we're going to do a head-to-head here on. If you look at here, comparatively, Mike McCarthy side by side with Mike Tomlin, I think everyone would say, hey, Mike Tomlin, way better coach than Mike McCarthy. Dusts him. Mike Tomlin's a Hall of Famer. Mike McCarthy's not. Well, if you just look at these broad stats right here, Mike McCarthy, you can make an argument, might be a little better. 18 years as head coach, 12 playoff appearances are the same. Mike McCarthy, one more division title. Playoff record, has got 3 more playoff wins. That's another thing too about Mike McCarthy that I think people don't remember or actually know is like if you actually go through the all-time winningest head coach, because I was doing that for some reason. I don't know why I was doing it. He's like he's close to top 10. It's kind of like if Mike McCarthy coached like a few more seasons, he's going to have some of the most wins in the NFL of all time, which is just absolutely kind of bonkers for where we think of Mike McCarthy. But really, we kind of hate Mike McCarthy. We thought the Green Bay thing grew stale. We thought he couldn't get anywhere in the playoffs with Dallas, but I don't even know if that's a Mike McCarthy thing. That would just be a Dallas thing. And Mike McCarthy, you could say his last 2 years in Dallas, the last 4 years, however long he's been there, has been probably more impressive than what Mike Tomlin's done the last 4 years. It just has been. And you could say, well, James, Mike Tomlin hasn't had a good quarterback since old Big Ben. Hasn't had a good quarterback in like 4 years. Well, again, maybe Pittsburgh people, let me know in the comments. I know Mike Tomlin doesn't make every single roster decision when it comes to the football team, but I think he has probably a lot of impact, a lot of input in every single roster decision or a lot of the roster decisions. I think he probably had a lot of impact in the Kenny Pickett draft pick. I think he had input. I think if Russell Wilson comes back, he's got to have input in that. I also think if they choose Rodgers, he's probably got input in that too. Like it comes to a point here where other people in the NFL don't get this pass. Other people don't get a win. Don't have 9 years without a playoff win and get a pass. Hey, man, maybe they figure out their quarterback situation. Maybe Russie comes in next year with a new weapon, DK Metcalf. He's familiar with him. And they kind of take off. I do think they actually played well with Russell this year. I think Russell Wilson's kind of been unfairly talked about as a quarterback recently. But, hey, man, if it's another year, because, again, if next year they don't win a playoff game, 10 years, that's more than half of Mike Tomlin's tenure there would be without a playoff win consecutively. It comes to a point, man, nice guy, leader of men, all of that stuff. If he got fired, he should probably, I don't know if he would get hired. I assume he would definitely get hired in the next week or two afterwards, but you got to admit, maybe Pittsburgh needs just a culture change. They just need a new voice. They need a new direction. Because whatever has been going on with Mike Tomlin the last 9 years, and maybe you could say even a little bit before that, they haven't been contenders for a while. And Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the best franchises in NFL history, one of the best fan bases in the NFL, they deserve better. So that's going to do it for this episode here today. Again, let me know your comments about Mike Tomlin. Am I being a little unfair? I showed you guys the stats. If you're a Pittsburgh fan, I want to know what you think about Mike Tomlin. Do you want to keep him? Is there other people that you blame for this lack of playoff success? Whether that be personnel, whether that be front office people. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts on your head coach. Because again, I don't have a pulse on what you guys are thinking. I just read these stats here and they don't look that good. So I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. If you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe. Please subscribe. It's the number one thing you can do to help support this show. It costs you absolutely $0, and it helps this channel grow and helps get our videos out to as many people as possible. Hit that like button so I know that you liked it and I can do more videos like this. And again, like I said, leave a comment. I'd very much like to hear what you guys have to say about this video. And again, thank you very much for watching. Check out other videos on this page. Talk to you next time. Bye.